pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everyone. Mary Jane, can you do the roll call, please?
Sure. Lisa Hutchinson, District Council. Present. Favanucci, Patient Assistant Superintendent for HR. Here. Eileen Panto.
Can you speak into the mic so that we can...
Oh, sure. Eileen Panto, Board Trustee.
Present.
Mark Marshall, Board Trustee.
Present.
Ray Carter, Board Trustee.
Present.
Mylene Inglis, I'm sorry. President.
Present.
Lee Kennedy, Vice President.
Present.
Dr. Adams, Superintendent of Schools.
Present.
Sharon Mallory, Superintendent of Business.
Present.
Dean Middleton, Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction.
Present.
And Monica Manley, Assistant Superintendent of Special Education.
Okay, so we have the corrected minutes of the March 26, 2019 Board of Education meeting. We need a motion and a second.
With the tree.
Second.
Second.
All in favor? The meeting minutes of our last board meeting will be on the next.
Yes.
Thank you.
We have new discussion items. We have this, well, actually not so new. 2019-2020 operational budget. Sharon?
I've handed out on the large budget, on the large paper. The only change that was made to this budget can be found on page 4 with an offset on page 13. And that was the addition of 2 kindergarten teachers in response to increased kindergarten level.
Sharon, all these green ones were,
In previous iterations.
right, so we did talk about lowering like everything down. Remember that? We said 10% across the board, and then we started line by line on the BOE and then never finished. Did we ever do all of that?
I didn't hear a consensus from the board to reduce the whole 100%.
Oh, well, I don't remember if then there was no consensus then to do the BOE thing. Because that was like part of that whole big conversation.
It was.
But what she's saying is we started going
We
line by line.
started going line by line,
She
do
said-
10%.
She said one.
And then we stopped. And then, so that was the consensus. If I remember correctly.
I didn't hear consensus for that.
Okay. I don't remember the consensus on that particular item. I remember it on the whole thing.
Now,
Mary Jane, would you look that up?
you're saying to take 10% of the whole budget?
If you don't have that conversation, but
I remember you having
Right now.
discussion, but nobody agreed to taking 10% off the budget.
you actually went, are we going line by line?
I'm not going to do that.
Right. Okay. So we never took any other cuts anywhere else except for that BOE, that night.
There was a reduction in the substitute type, if I recall.
That wasn't that night though.
No, we didn't go any further.
No, I'm talking about just that night, that conversation. There's a lot of different things in
I
there.
remember that conversation.
Okay,
We said it's ridiculous to go
line by line.
line by line.
So
But
we
we
asked
made,
first-
we did consensus on the board.
Did we not talk about the principals going back to their buildings? Did we not say this? Am I imagining things that?
We did talk about it, but I don't know if we actually went to consensus.
All right, so no cuts were made then, because we didn't have consensus.
But I think what you're saying is we need to cut a little bit over.
Yeah, I think it's still needed. What's our percentage right now?
The budget increase or the tax levy?
Both.
The budget is still the 0.61 of 8%,
What is it again?
You said it.
0.61%, so less than 1%,
Okay, and what is the tax levy?
2.9%.
And then what's the, and that, what was it before, the allowable decreases by the state? 4 what?
We have an allowable levy
Yes.
of, it was 4.37, it's actually 4.79, because I had to add in the bus purchases,
Okay, so
which
4.79, and then the tax levy itself is 2 point,
2.9.
okay, so 4.79 and 2.9, thank you.
What are you trying to say?
Say it time.
I recall when the initial conversation was had, it was 4.37.
That's
And
She had to add in a couple of things.
Just like you had.
And then I heard a board member say, well, we need to bring that down to at least 3.1%. Yeah, but bring it down to 3.1, and I believe the administration even dig a little further, and they brought it down to 2.9, which is less than the 3.1 that I believe I heard you say, Eileen.
I did not say
And
any
everybody-
4.1 number, that's
all
first, but
each other.
2.9 is the tax levy, that's different than the 4.79 that we're talking about.
Then what are you talking
So what-
about?
4.79 is what we, Sharon, can you explain that to Mylene, please? What the 4.79 is?
Well,
and
you
then the
explain it to
2.9?
me.
Sharon's the expert, I'll let Sharon do it, but the 4.79 is where we start.
Well, I'm
If you
also
want me to
saying-
explain it, I'll explain it.
Wait, am I the expert?
If she wants me to
Because
explain it,
wait
I'll
a
explain it.
second, I'm the one who put this budget together. Do you want me to get the huge binders that have all the detail? Or am I only the expert to explain what you just asked me to explain?
Sharon, is this what you do all the time?
I put the budget together all
Okay,
the time.
Good, so, do you want to explain the 4.79 to the 2.9, or just
Do you want me to talk
explain it?
about
'Cause I have no problem
10%?
saying it. I have no problem saying it in plain English, because I have no problem.
Do you want me to
4.79 is what
address,
New York
do you
State,
want me to address cutting the budget by 10%, $19 million, and how that would desecrate the
that was an
district?
arbitrary number, that was to be
Yes,
facetious
it
that night.
was.
That was to be facetious that night, and I'll admit that.
But you brought it up again.
But you
I
brought it
did,
into that.
because
And that's why
I
I didn't
noticed that
do
there
it.
was only one thing cut, and that bothers me.
So was it facetious or was it not facetious?
That night it was facetious.
And
Tonight,
tonight?
I would like, I think 4.79 is a big number.
4 point, okay, so I'll be an expert now, as
Okay,
long as
thank you.
we're both agreeing that it's still facetious tonight to
It
ask
is.
me to arbitrarily cut 10%.
It is, I will admit that.
Okay,
That
so
is
let's
facetious,
be
Sharon, yes.
productive,
Okay, that's
and
perfect.
let's talk about what 4.79 is, since
Okay.
now I'm recognized as the expert.
Thank you, okay.
What is, I'd like to.
Okay, I actually had a slide.
We need to do it like more plain English though.
Okay,
If you could, Sharon, I appreciate it.
I can be plain,
I know you can. You've done it at our meetings and you've done it
okay.
very well and I appreciate it.
All right, so I'm not gonna run through this because maybe it gets to be too numbery. We start with last year's levy. There's a whole calculation that the controller has us do. And when I do all of those calculations, it comes to the tax levy limit. The amount that the controller says we are allowed to increase last year's levy by. Our calculation shows we can still be at the cap or under the cap, not piercing the cap, if we do not tax any more than 4.7, than 4.79. And instead of taxing at 4.79, which would be at the cap, everybody would get their rebate checks, everything would be good. We are, instead of doing the allowable 4.79, we're doing 2.9. After having done a 0 last year.
Wait, we're doing 4.79, less
No.
what New York State allows us to take off.
No, we are allowed to tax as
Okay.
high as 4.79.
That's what we're
And
allowed
still
to
be
tax.
at the cap.
Okay.
So that's what we're allowed.
So we can do that. Instead of doing 4.79, we're only doing 2.9.
Okay, so what was so my question before then, which was again, not answered then, was what is the amount before the allowable deductions? What is that percentage? That's what I was asking for,
Total levy limit before exclusions,
before exclusions.
126 million.
What's the percentage?
I don't have a percentage for that.
Usually we get a percentage, usually we start with a percentage, and then we drop it down to what the levy is.
We do not have a percentage before exclusions, we never talk about that. We
Isn't it
talk
on the
about
state report card?
on the report card.
Right, so that's the number
There's
that I'm
not a
looking for.
percent on the report card, there's a dollar amount for that. This is the number, this is the percent we always talk about, that's what everybody in the state talks about. What
There
is
was a
this
site that I
percent?
had last year, I'll pull it, it doesn't matter, that was the number I wanted. I wanted that percent, less the allowable deductions equals what percentage? That was the number that I was asking for.
Can we
So,
figure that out?
so there was a miscommunication just there, just now.
I can do that for you,
Yeah,
it's
can
just
you
not on my
punch it?
slide.
Okay,
Can you punch it out?
All right, so
thank you, Sharon.
I am afraid of confusing people about
Confuse the
that.
No, I wanna know it. I don't know why. I felt like speak, that's, other than you want something, everybody won't get so nasty.
Okay, nowhere on the property tax report card, I have it in Spanish and English. Nowhere on the property tax report card does it have that percent. But it's not that I can't do
No,
math,
I mean, I
it's just going-
knew the number
what
last
does
year,
it
I don't know
mean?
where I got the number last year, Sharon, but I knew the number last year.
I just don't know what it means. We want to know what the cap is, and we want to know what we're taxing it. That's meaningful.
That's what, yeah, that's what you wanna know, but I personally wanna know what we start at, less the allowable exclusions to get to the 2.9,
Okay.
that's all. We can move on while that goes on, I just wanna know that number.
We're under the tax cap.
Grossly,
Mostly under, 2%.
gross meaning large.
2.9, correct?
That's grossly under the cap.
The 4.79 that we're allowed to tax, the state controller's calculation, the board said for us, go back, roll up your sleeves, get your pencils out, and make cuts. We made cuts to bring us down to 2.9%, where we could tax 4.79.
Perfect.
We're asking to tax 2.9, which is significantly below the cap, because we've been seeing that out there in the public. People don't understand that we are below the cap, which means there's star rebates and everything that you get back by the district being under the cap. We are under the cap by almost 2 percentage points. And where Eileen asked us to go back and look, and Mylan asked us to go back, and all of you asked us to go back and look and try to get the levy down, we got the levy down way under where we can tax legally.
1.8%.
1.8%, yes. I appreciate that, thank you.
Okay, so this number, the difference between this number and last year's levy as a percent of last year's levy is 3.57.
Thank you, that's all I
And,
needed.
and that means nothing. Backing out the exclusion means backing out the capital levy, which is going to be used to purchase buses that are much needed due to rot and fear as per the
I only want that
DOT.
number, I'm good, Sharon, that's
Yeah, but
fine.
I'm not done. Due to fear that there's body rot, and the DOT has already tipped us off, where we might not be able to make it through. So that's for buses, and that is to fulfill our debt obligation. So exclusions aren't like, oh, here's just a frivolous freebie to tack on top. It's so you can meet your obligations. 3.57 means nothing. Don't get confused, everybody. It's 4.79. And we're only taxing only, I know it's an increase, I know you guys are paying for it, I appreciate that, I understand that. 2.9. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Going over to the secure retirement stipend now.
Do we have to review all
No,
that?
wait, that comes later.
Moving over to the security retirement stipend resolution.
Thank you. So, in March 2018, we had a petition to Governor Cuomo from the Board of Education to sign the legislation that was sitting in front of him, and unfortunately is still sitting in front of him. So I will read the letter out loud, and you folks can let me know whether you would like me to send this again. Whereas Article 11, Section 1 of the Constitution of the State of New York provides that the legislature shall provide for the maintenance and support of a system of free common schools wherein all the children of the state may be educated. Whereas Section 11, Section 1 of the Constitution of the State of New York provides a legal authority given to the Board of Regents and to the legislature to provide for the maintenance and support of public schools. Whereas the New York State Board of Regents and the State Education Department exercise the powers and functions delegated to them through education law. Whereas the Board of Regents and the State Education Department establish policy by adopting rules and regulations within the limitations of state law. Whereas Article 4, Section 3 of the Constitution of the State of New York outlines the powers and duties of the governor. Whereas with the amount of violence taking place in the current school environment, it is imperative that the focus become more precisely on the safety and security of the students, faculty, and staff. It is our responsibility to ensure that those tasked with protecting our students are the most experienced and highly trained former military, police, and sheriffs. The unscrupulous agencies that are being hastily created to fill these security positions as a means to make money without properly vetting their applicants are unacceptable examples of what our schools require. Whereas retired police officers, sheriffs, and veterans with their years of experience and training would make for optimal school safety and security officers, but are limited to the amount of income they may make due to certain current restrictions in certain state law, further limiting them from being fully immersed in the school community, understanding the school culture, and overall familiarity within educational facilities. Whereas currently proposed laws in both the state and the Senate, S2946, and the Assembly, A8327, would allow for retired police officers to be employed by a school district as a school safety officer, school security officer, or any other substantially similar position, and continue to receive their full retirement benefits and not be limited to $30,000 of additional income. Now therefore be it resolved, the Board of Education of the Connecticut School District of Islip demands that the governor take serious action against school violence by placing the best qualified men and women in the position of protecting our children. And now therefore let be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Connecticut Central School District of Islip demands the governor endorse Assembly Bill A8327 and Senate Bill 2946 and allow for its quick passage through the legislative process. And now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Connecticut Central School District of Islip demands that the governor of the state of New York ensure that all students in our schools in the state of New York are protected by the same trained professionals that we entrust our lives with every day on this Tuesday, April 16, 2019. If I have your approval, I would like to send this once again to Governor Cuomo and all of our elected officials.
I would like you and Don to review this.
I think it's a necessity for most school districts in New York State. It's not just the central. It's City Island, and only for many years, many districts require the state to be.
Okay, so you good with the words? I'm good with it.
I'm good with also. I'm just curious, is there any way we can get our counterparts in other districts to do something like that?
I can certainly send them to my fellow superintendents. If you decide, we can vote to send them to all the Board of Educations as well. We can do that as well.
And we also sent to the state education department.
They have no impact on this, but we certainly can.
Yeah, well, just putting them on notice that we're doing this. I would send that to anybody who's gonna listen.
So how do I need to change that resolution for a second? I believe it's on the consent agenda to send it to Governor Cuomo. How do I need to?
And then you want to add like a whereas, be it further resolved that the district shall disseminate, talking on regular time, disseminate.
I don't know, you know what, I don't know if we, do I need a resolution, or can I just have this discussion and then they vote right now to give me consent to do?
I was just gonna say, that the superintendent is authorized to disseminate this resolution to all necessary parties as determined by the board, something very general.
Okay, do you want to write that, we'll add it at the end of the consent agenda?
Yeah.
Thank you all.
So we have five?
Yep.
Okay. And we're moving on to general board discussions. The first item is a donation of excess cafeteria food. Who would like to address that?
I would. So I got feedback from our food service director, who said that the district used to donate the leftover food from the high school on Fridays to the former superintendent. She doesn't remember when or why we stopped, but she did read an article a few years ago that a man at a homeless shelter sued the school district for getting sick on food that he ate at the shelter and came from the school. He won and the district had to pay. Of course, you know, you get into a liability issue with why did the food become bad? Who was handling it between the two places? How long, how much time passed between when the food left the school and was served at the shelter? The food service district manager said that the bid, which is a document that is prepared by the state education department, precludes us from removing food from our premises, and it does. It says the food service management company is to ensure that overproduction of meals does not occur and that leftovers are not removed from the district's premises at any time. So the standard contract that comes from the state does not allow that.
I can add something, just generally. There is New York State legislation, but it's very recent, that allows districts to donate excess unused edible food from meals served to the district to local voluntary food assistance programs. So there has to be like a plan where it can be done, but it would have to be in accordance with the contract that you have. So if you're limited by the contract, then you will be limited by this.
No one can come to the school to pick it up.
Right, so it has to be, so it's almost like what Sharon was talking about, the liability on the school district. They're removing that by saying, okay, you can donate to a place that regularly does this. If it's a food assistance program, community food pantry, it can be done in that vein, but not directly. There's no legislation that allows it to be directly from the school to, you know, children that may come, or families that may come. So it has to be through this particular process.
So if we found an organization that would come here, take over the liability, take the food with them, and then take on that responsibility.
That would be permissible under this legislation, but then you're further limited by the contract language that you have, that you have to somehow, that, it doesn't seem like the SCD contract is in conformance with this recent legislation. This is from 2018, so very new. So there would have to be some type of discussion with SCD to see how that can be updated to reflect what's happened with this new state legislation.
And who would look into that?
I mean, I can look into it with Sharon, the food service, to see how that can be addressed.
We need to change that contract.
That's what I'm talking about. Yes. See how SCD's on contract can be updated to reflect this new local, this new state.
But that contract was from our food service company, though, not from the state.
It's from SED.
Oh, it is,
It's
okay.
with-
I misunderstood, sorry.
And of course, we are still discouraging overproduction of food, which Wisconsin is saying they do keep to a minimum. They do batch preparation. They are one of only 20 schools that have this practice for learning. So you sent what she said?
I did. So I sent it to you in FYI. They're one of very few, very few companies that are, have applied for the least amount of waste, and they've been awarded accolades from the federal government in their abilities to keep down waste as a food service company.
We could still look into it further.
I would like to at least look into it. Is there any way we can get a couple of vendors for food
Be a great thing.
through extra food that we have that's going to be wasted anyway? I think we need to at least
Yes, absolutely.
Any more questions on that?
Does he need a consensus to do that?
I'm gonna look at, you see what they do, say that, right?
So it's really just, now that we have this information, like have a conversation, see how we can get that across to the very slightly content message.
I'm going to need a consensus to go forward because we're going to be using funds to further research this as well as
That's what I
legal
thought,
costs.
that's
So
why I
we're going
asked.
to need consensus of the board to
So
move forward.
I
with
say
that.
yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, we're moving on to another board discussion, which is the property development plan with EMS.
Oh, yeah.
Would that be you, John?
I think I could probably speak to it better than anybody at this point. A few weeks ago, I reached out to Commissioner Meyer from Planning Division of Town of Islip. I had concerns with the runoff from the old driving range and how it may be impacting the wetlands. There's a delineated wetlands between the two properties. It's about a 50-foot wide stretch. There's a stream that runs through there as well as a few standing trees as well. So in those exchanges with Mr. Myers, he explained the fact that there's actually a change of zoning that's on Town of Islip agenda for tomorrow night for the property, and he went so far as to get me in touch with one of the principals that's looking to develop the property as well. I met with that person last week. They came in, they actually brought in some site surveys, some wetland surveys, some information as well. And they provided a pretty good education for me as to some of the history of the land as well as what they currently have in position and are able to zone for. So they are able to zone right now for 102 or 103 units. They have the plans, it's been approved, it's been in the hopper for 8-9 years at this point. They're looking for a change of zone. They want to change it to over 55, and as such, the units actually become a little bit smaller, and they're looking to go up to approximately 150 units.
We also want to go to 3 to 4 stories as well.
My understanding is 2 stories.
Oh, they had that too, because I know additionally they wanted, at a meeting that they had at the Phoenix, so they were actually asking for 4 stories, projecting 4 stories.
Over 55. 4 stories. With elevators and a central pool, clubhouse, and all the facilities and amenities that they would be able to utilize. So one of the things that they shared was that the footprint, the developed area between the actual roof lines and the paved area would be no different than what it would be if they went with the project that is approved and that they can move forward with at any point at this point. So they're not looking to change the footprint, they're not going to increase the runoff and drainage. In fact, one of the requirements of the Town of Islip is 100% retention of all water. So they have to put enough catch basins and drainage ditches and everything else to capture any runoff so it doesn't augment and increase the runoff into the wetlands area. In addition to that 100%, they're also calling for several water features in front of the property, one for the aesthetics appeal, but also as a recharge basin as well, to add additional overflow capabilities so that they are truly self-contained and they don't have any negative impacts to the neighbors. Excuse me.
The last time someone tried to do this, years ago, Bill, they came to us and they asked if they could have our property, how much of our property. How much is a buffer in there?
There is a buffer. So where that wetlands resides, there's actually a road on Town of Islip maps called Dave Avenue. And I'm not sure exactly the history and the logic, but towards Sunrise Highway, that was abandoned. The Town of Islip abandoned that when this developer bought the corner property on the Search Road in Oakdale, Bohemia. They're also the same property owner that has this other piece of property that's the driving range. So the Town of Islip went into agreement and gave them that property, so now they'll have continuity between the 2 locations. They did ask whether or not the district would ever be interested in taking ownership of that land from the Town of Islip as it taxes for 2 property owners to do that. And the town of Iceland is also happy to do that. He said it's a contractual, determination, it's very quick to be done. I see 2 different ways. One, if the town owns it, we have a third party between the two of us. So maybe it's in our best interest. Or, if we do decide to take ownership of it with the developer, we end up increasing the footprint and the land of the district by 25 feet. So there's 2 different ways of looking at it. Either way, where that buffer begins, the development of their property, the parking lot would start to 50 feet away from that, and the building structure is 100 feet away from that property line. And that's all to close. So there's actually town of Iceland owned property, a 50-foot wide stretch.
But why would we want to own part of it?
If we own it, we can increase our footprint by 25
What's
feet.
the problem? I heard you say that, but I don't know what the problem is.
I don't, I'm not a land developer, so I really don't know all the pros and cons. But if somebody came in with really deep pockets, could they ever say to the town of Iceland, I'll give you $1 billion and take the full 50 feet and ultimately have a little bit more buildable space? I don't know. I mean,
I
I
just didn't
don't.
know what was the point of us owning that.
When they came to us, the developer came to us and wanted our property, was yours.
Would it cost us anything to buy that 25 feet?
No, it would just be an agreement that you enter into.
Oh, that's it.
I don't know the history to that. I don't
I
know.
was there for that.
Understood. Because the town owns that road between,
Is it?
I don't know if maybe they were trying to buy that 50 feet initially from the town and we would lose our buffer. I don't know the history. He didn't speak to it. He's been associated with the company for the past 30 years. He did develop foreign property at Belvedere and Service Road. He's well aware of the nuances of the property, the wetlands and everything else. I don't think they have any intentions of expanding once they do this development. It's just, I don't know if there's any additional questions you'd like me to go back and ask. He has given me contact information. I don't know if I'm gonna make it to the meeting, which is like Thursday night this week. I don't know if I'll be listening to the planning meeting this Thursday. But I can certainly reach out to Commissioner Meyer or the owner if additional questions if there are.
My concern was the drainage. That was it.
Yeah, and I think the piece that the town's requirement of 100% collection of all paved and roof surfaces is the critical piece of that. On top of the fact that they're also going to put they're proposing additional recharge basins to further collect and lessen the impacts to those wetlands.
Are they doing a waste management treatment on their site?
What did you say, Marilyn? Sorry, I can't hear you.
Waste management, they have to treat their everything from the end systems. Yeah.
Any questions? Okay, moving on to the discussion items.
Can you put your microphone on my little side?
On topic?
Yes. So, a question was asked regarding some of the prom topics as well as the social host law. Earlier this school year, in the fall, the high school held a kind of a senior meeting with regards to all of the senior activities. And those items, such as social host behavior, expectations, were all discussed with the kids. The co-officer from Suffolk County Police Department also discussed the social host law at the mandatory parent senior meeting in the fall. This spring, we have scheduled the Suffolk County Police Department to come back and speak to our students about appropriate and responsible behaviors. The high school administration has a spring assembly planned where they discuss and reiterate some of the expectations that they have for our seniors and the rest of our student body. On April 30th, we have the Addict or Not presentation for grades 9 through 12. And on May 21st, Choices and Consequences Assembly hosted by April 30th. In addition to that, Mr. Costa, as well as our our 12th grade administrator, have several robocalls and emails planned to be sent out throughout the spring, reminding parents of some of the challenges that may lie ahead.
So while we're on another topic, I might kind of focus on the years prior, see a lot of pushback, but doesn't hurt that I'll try and ask again, do you know where I'm going, Dee?
Yeah,
Where am I going, Dee?
the bus.
Yes.
Where you going?
A lot of school districts, they try to promote children going to the high school and having like the big coach buses to take them to the prom instead of these kids getting limousines or driving to the prom. It's more
They have the
safety.
pictures at the high school, right, don't they decorate the high school?
Yeah, so it's more to try to
Promote safety.
it's a safe prom thing, so I think personally it touches on some social, everybody here, I understand worries about the social, interactions of our students. And a lot of times there are children who do not get invited to a limousine, or they feel that they're not part of a group. I just thought by having the bus would also help everyone feel kind of included and not, feel
I mean,
excluded.
wasn't one of the rules that they had, in order to enter into the prom, they had to come from the bus, right? Not from the limousines, so that, like,
Yes,
because some
they
parents
would.
were still taking limos to the high school, but then they had to get on the buses and go to the prom venue.
Yeah, the prom, so I wouldn't take any loans.
Right, so,
And I think they actually had to get permission to say the mother or parent was gonna drop off their child.
but no limos were allowed then.
But good permission had to be granted for that piece.
What school district are you talking about now?
I forget where we read that, Eileen, when we looked at that.
Yeah, Eileen is right, I don't remember, I just remember that being,
It was one, because we talked about that extensively.
Yes, so that conversation has occurred several times at our high school. We did get a little bit of pushback from our student body, as well as some of our advisors with regards to changing some of the historical practices of the prom. There are some definite benefits to having one means of transportation to the prom, from the high school. We'll bring it up again with the high school administration, and I'll ask Mr. Costa also to survey the other Suffolk high schools to see who follows that practice.
How about we survey the current 11th graders now, because I don't know that's,
Can't do it this year.
Can't do it this way.
no, you can survey your 11th graders now, because they would be the ones taking the prom bus next year. So, I mean, I don't know how many students they spoke to, but if you have roughly 500 students, and if you only spoke to 20 students, it's not really capturing the whole audience, so.
Yeah, I'll actually have them, I think it's a fantastic idea, we'll do the 11th and 10th graders.
Yes,
And
yes.
then didn't the last board not accept it because there was, cost to it too, because of our buses, right?
But there would be an additional cost to the prom ticket.
It was, right, but it
But-
wasn't significant, right?
But no, not as much as it would cost for limousine.
Right.
Significantly
Well, that's-
cheaper.
But I think, I have a daughter who's a senior, I think getting limos is now not as popular as it used to be.
It's hard to get them too.
Yeah, so I think maybe this is an opportunity if we meet with our
And they're costly.
11th and 10th graders to see if we
And
can
Dean, even if it doesn't happen with other school districts, for a safe prom, I don't think that's a bad thing to be the first district to do.
We're not the
We're
first.
not- I'm sure we're not, but even if we can't find one that still does it, I don't think it's a bad thing to do.
Sometimes if we can have our children go see what that experience looks like, it may persuade them to think a little bit different.
Now, does any other district do that one? Yes. No, but I thought one of the districts do that, they pick a theme every year and they make this glorious event.
Green Village, Ward Melville High School, they do, their prom is actually in the high school.
Oh, okay.
So they pick theme, and then the parents come and decorate they transform the high school into whatever the theme is, including the bathrooms and the hallways, and, but the biggest part of the night, to be honest with you, is the arrival. And they would never go for a prom bus. And they arrive in fire trucks, and they arrive in police cruisers, and they arrive on, boats being towed behind things, and honestly, it takes them 2.5 hours to get in on the red carpet, and most of the kids go right out the back door and go off to other events that are not part of the prom. So that is not one that I would emulate, to be honest with you. It, as a parent, bothers me a lot, but that's really, it's all about the arrival and the red carpet and the event that is the prom is not, it's almost like a secondary event. I don't feel that in Connecticut. I feel the dance and the kids really being together at the dance is what the prom should be all about. It's celebrating the end of the year. And if you take a look at our proms, our kids stay the whole time. They do a really beautiful thing with that. One of the biggest things that administration has told us in the past is if you look at the districts that are doing the prom buses, they're small. So you're not talking about 500 kids getting on 25 coach buses to go over to the prom venue, which is really kind of a nightmare of logistics, getting those kids on a bus in a timely fashion over to the event in a timely fashion so that everyone gets to see the whole event. That was one of the pushbacks. Senator Riches does do it, but they're tiny. You know, they have 150 kids max in a graduating class, and generally it's a junior-senior prom, so that there's enough kids to fill up a prom hall to do things like that. I know Islip does the prom bus, but it's also small. Do you know how many kids?
How many kids of ours actually attend the prom now? We all 500 kids don't attend.
No, but we do have kids that bring dates.
Right.
So it's
About how many?
it's a pretty big event. I don't
Past
think that
couple years.
number.
Yeah, I would like to know, like, the
Yeah,
past
yeah.
couple of years.
Don, do you have any idea how many kids
About a total of 5%.
go to the prom? Yeah, because we have security at both the high school and at the venue. So you're talking about, you know, if you put 35, 40 on a coach bus, you're talking about a lot of coach buses, a lot of logistics, and that was one of the things that the high school kind of brought up about it. So it's something to discuss certainly, and if the limos are getting harder and harder for our kids to get, but that was one of the
So
things.
then can we do an opt-in on a bus? And maybe do a trial run, see how it goes?
Well, we'll have Dean take that survey and start to talk to the high school administration about the juniors and sophomores.
I think you gotta ask the kids first.
Yeah, well, they'll take the survey. I can tell you, my son didn't want to go back.
You might
He
turn
took my
kids
truck
off
and that was
the
it.
prom
My
night.
son went on a trolley,
I
so
know the prom.
it's all about the entry. We're not-
Okay, we're moving on to, okay, so proposed, okay, so we're looking for the budget adoption for the public portion of this. Could ask anybody from the community that'd like to, come up to the podium if they have any questions regarding the proposed budget. Okay, so we're going to take a vote on the proposed budget for 2019-2020. Motion? All in favor?
I'm sorry, who made the motion? I couldn't hear. So who
Lee made the
the
motion, I did the second.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
Eileen? Okay, so it's 5 yes for the budget. Okay, we need also consensus and a vote on the contingency budget. I need a motion and a second.
Motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the adoption of the proposed 2019-2020 contingency budget.
Your money on the property tax.
Okay, so now we're going to the 2019-2020 property tax report card. I'll second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, moving on to the administrative budget.
Do we need to move into a different part of the agenda because it's a BOCES election, or we can just
No,
stay? Okay. This is the BOCES administrative budget.
Well, I have a question about this. How does this impact us?
So the BOCES budget impacts all of the services that we purchase from them.
Right, but by like what? Like how, I mean,
Any of
is
the
it a
COSAs,
lot of money, is it a little bit of money, is it a percentage? Like, I know that, but.
there's a percentage that goes up every year.
Okay.
So
We know
the
that
cost then
percentage?
is true. I'm sorry.
We know that percentage?
It varies based upon,
1.86%? Impacts our budget, 1.86%?
No, the coasters that we
It is.
asked for.
Okay, so it
it's
impacts what we pay.
1.84% change in their administrative budget.
So that impacts whatever contracts we pay to them? Is
Yes,
that correct? By, and an increase of 1.84, you said?
That's an average, that's a general increase.
Yeah, no,
not
that's fine, I
every-
get that.
Yes.
So what happens if we say, no, we don't want to approve this? Like, what does that mean? That's my point, like, what does it matter?
Or one district that, or one district that's not gonna vote.
So in the
Yeah,
event
I just don't understand what I'm doing.
it doesn't have anything that says that what happens if we, as a district, don't vote.
Yeah.
But if the administrative budget is not approved by the majority of component districts, Eastern Suffolk BOCES must adopt a continuing administrative budget that does not exceed the amount of the current fiscal year's administrative budget.
It's very similar to what we have, it's just that the
Yeah.
component districts
Right,
have
so
to
it's-
vote on it rather than the general public.
Okay, I get it. That makes sense. Thank you. I just didn't know what, I had no idea what I was voting on. That's all I wanted to know.
I like Fred.
No, we need to,
No,
first we
we're
need to
talking
vote
about
on
the
their
budget
budget.
First,
So we need to know how many yeas and how many nays in their budget, it's an
I'm
individual.
gonna abstain.
First,
I don't
we
want
need
the
a
raise
motion,
if you want to say.
Okay, motion and second.
All right, motion. So Lisa second, all in favor?
Abstain.
I'm gonna abstain too.
Okay, so then we're moving on to the Board Eagles, the Board of Action.
So just so you, I can't get in.
So no one's running against them, is what I'm saying.
So there are 5 board seats up, and these are the 5 incumbents. So basically, you're voting for people who are already seated in the seat. Everybody's running unopposed.
Come try.
Yes,
So do we need to vote on each candidate separately?
No, because we don't need to.
Okay, so we're gonna vote it all in one, so we need a motion and a second and then a vote.
Wait, isn't Fred also in this budget?
He does a lot of things. He goes around all over.
Fred's all over.
Yeah. We need a motion and a second.
motion,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're moving on to, Schedule 2 appointments, temporary salary changes, need a motion and a second.
There was no schedule one, huh?
Motion, anybody's motion?
Motion.
I'll second that, all in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to old business, we have 2019 scope summer music program agreement.
Right, we got those prices, right?
Yes, we sent them to
So
you.
now, do we have to vote on these? Is this a consent?
Yes.
Is old business consent agenda, is that what it is?
Yes.
Okay.
So we have,
I want to hear about mixed nature.
well, let's get that to the first one. So I have a motion and a second for the summer music.
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to the agreement with the Nature Mixed Animal Adventures.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Question,
Yeah, I
please?
did, I tell me about it.
Did you get the email?
I didn't read it.
So Nature Nick's Animal Adventures program is for the entire 7th grade at RMS. Nick presents 2 one-hour interactive and engaging presentations which directly parallel the next-gen science standards. Nick brings approximately 8 exotic animals. He demonstrates how each animal's unique survival skills and genetic adaptations that allow it to thrive in the wild in specific
Are
environments.
they reptiles?
It's not specific.
I think I know one or two, find out who stores some of those at the overview. I think that's the same person.
Oh,
Dean, can I get an invite?
absolutely.
All right, motion and a second on the table.
You ready? You
I'm
ready?
ready, okay, Pesham,
All
use,
favor, right?
yeah, we did all favor. Pesham, use agreement, summer enrichment program, Stinky BOCES.
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to the consent agenda, we have items 2 through 5. We need a motion and a second, and we can have a
Lisa,
discussion.
can we do number 6 at this point too? Can we add 6 for the letter?
Yes, you want to make a motion to amend the consent agenda to add the letter that Linda read earlier?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay, so
yes, 2 through 6, and I
All right, so we're
added
gonna make a motion to add item number 6 to it, 6 will involve, to include a resolution for the governor and also other parties
Right. With that additional language, where the superintendent is authorized to disseminate resolutions with all necessary parties as determined by the board in this.
Okay, motion and a second.
Ray, and then
Okay, so now we have items
Do we need
two.
all in favor to get
Say
it?
all in favor,
Well, no, we still have to
Just
discuss.
all in favor to put it on.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, yes, all in favor.
Okay, just hold that, just put it on.
Okay, so we have items 2 through 5 is a motion on the table. Any questions regarding?
Yep, I want to pull number 3.
Well, 6 leave this one.
I'd like to pull number 3 to discuss.
You want it to discuss separately?
Yep, and vote separately.
Or, say, going for a separate vote, but it
Yes.
could be, the conversation can be had now.
Yep, we can talk about it right now. That's the discussion. So the energy performance contract, we talked about way back before Ray was on the board. We talked about how it went out. We got 2 bids, one from a Canadian company, one from Johnson Controls. I had an issue with Johnson Controls with all the things that they did in the high school. I asked if we could send it back out to bid. I want to ask that again. I know that Central Islip just sent out for an energy performance contract and got 6 bids in. Schenectady sent out for an energy performance contract and got 9 bids in. I am totally for, because I'm people that I know, I'm totally for the energy performance contract. I think it'll be great for our school, it'll save us a lot of money, but I still think that we need the best company, and having just 2 bids is not conducive to doing the best thing for our
So
district.
you're saying these 2 companies are not the best?
I'm saying that we need to have
It's
more
the
bids.
same, more bids. I think we discussed that, we all
We
agreed
all
on that.
discussed it the last time, that's why
We
we
said
tabled
we
it.
wanted 3 bids or so.
We had two.
See, so we did have a vote, we had a 2-2, is that what you're saying?
All right, so we all agreed, okay.
I thought we tabled it.
I told you.
From what I understand, there was somebody that came in late. Can you tell us about the person who came in late? Do you
I
remember
don't
who
care,
that
take it
was?
late, I don't care.
Yeah,
We need
I
6 and
mean,
9.
I don't know much about that proposal, I don't see that goes right to the purchasing director. I've never saw it, and I think because it came late, it's like she doesn't even take delivery of it, I think she returns it immediately.
So what do you mean by late? Did it come the next day? Did it come?
I don't know.
Do you have any insurance?
I think it came a couple hours late.
So,
So if-
that's not something.
So how long was this on keep it up for?
I think it was out for quite a while because 3 separate companies came in and spent weeks upon weeks walking the buildings, doing energy assessments and getting familiar with the district. So I don't have a specific number of days for you, but it was in excess of that.
So you have 3 separate companies that come in to survey the building, to get the specs. So I'm not sure how much more time is needed.
One was a Canadian company, right, John, that had proposed some things that the SED did not approve or would not approve. So we automatically would have to get rid of them because we can't compare contracts apples to apples, so they can do it. So basically, we had 1.
We don't know that for a fact. So when we went through the review process and we went through the actual proposals, they proposed measures that had yet to be approved in public schools. And because any project for EPC has to go through SED approval, there's an unknown element to that. Could it have been approved? I don't know. So there's a piece to that I don't know.
And then didn't we also, I know I brought this up with you, but I'm gonna bring it up to the public. I've worked in construction for 15 years, and I know that when you're in construction and you're a GC, you have certain subcontractors that you use all the time. So I made some phone calls to some of my old contacts, and our architect is known to use certain subcontractors. So there's a lot of times that subcontractors don't put in bids when they know that they're not getting chosen anyway. So I have a problem with that too as well, which is another reason I want it sent out to you.
So, and I can appreciate that, but unless we change our architect, you're gonna have the same situation potentially occur again.
Or they know that,
I'm just saying,
if they see that the board wants more bids, maybe they'll bid more then, and they'll say, okay, now it's not just the.
And I can appreciate saying,
I want a lot of, if Central Hudson can get 6 bids, we should be able to get 6 bids and really do the best for our district.
And if the bid performance, I don't know if 6, 8, 10, 12 pages really makes a difference. You know, even looking at the 2 bids that we received, the cornerstones of both proposals, and I assume all proposals are going to be high school boilers, which we know are problematic, and they're oversized for the building, and that's something that, to each of the three contractors that came to the district, I share that goal. I am sure that anyone would do that. Interior
Yeah, we
lighting.
can't forget this.
No,
We do the right thing.
Understood. I'm not trying to answer in that way. I'm just trying to be flexible. So the high school boilers is definitely going to be a project that should be included no matter what it's for. Interior, exterior lighting. If you look at the number of fixtures that we have in the district.
I'm not debating the project, I'm telling you, I believe in everything.
John,
that
can
the
you
project
continue
was.
talking, please, because I'd like to hear what you have to say.
Well, I'd like to just finish my comment, thank you. I said I'm totally for the energy performance contract. My problem is that we only had Canadian company and JCI. That's it. And JCI is known throughout this district. Apples to apples, apples to oranges, whatever it is, it has a bad name in this district.
And I've spoken to that before.
Yeah, you have.
You know, so.
But you have a lot of people that,
I get that, and I truly appreciate that. And to set the record straight for that perspective, Johnson Control worked as a subcontractor for another architectural firm. They still do work, but they follow the contract and the specifications of the architects. And when you have an architect who designs a project, the contractor has an obligation to follow those steps.
when it's not done, when it's not designed right, you go back to the architect and you tell them, look, this is my trade, this is what's the right way to do it, you didn't do it.
And but if they didn't incorporate and calculate enough savings, so one of the perfect measures to point out to, because we just addressed it in the recent capital project, is the type of control systems we use to district. The architect firm made recommendations to the control company, Johnson Controls, to move forward with the proprietary control system.
I really can't hear.
So that proprietary system comes in much, much less expensive. It's a coup for the architect firm because it gives them that much more wiggle room and that much more latitude in their savings if they can get this proprietary, less expensive product in. It doesn't take into consideration the service contracts, the proprietary nature of it, which has cost us all this money since then.
I know this.
But that's not on Johnson Control. And I've shared from the beginning, I have no affiliation with Johnson Control. I really don't. I've never
I've
worked with
just
them.
reached out to people I know and they don't have a good name in the industry. It's not, it's just I just feel that we need to get more bids. We did talk about this,
Yep.
right? Did we not talk about this like the last couple meetings about getting enough bids to make an informed decision? And I think we need to start here. That's just my opinion, and we can vote on it whenever you guys are ready.
Just, there's something else that bothers me about it, is that this is a little bit different than what the contract was, the scope. It's not a set scope. We're not saying do these 5 things. We're coming back and we're getting their suggestion on solution, 2 different solutions. So it's a little tough to say which is the better price, because which is the better solution.
Right.
I don't know.
Yes, next meeting on the best.
Sure,
Or
and
incorporate what they're saying.
everybody's gonna have a different impression. They're gonna also, each of these contractors are gonna have their subs that they work on with, that they're gonna go out with, and that they know that they can get competitive pricing. So how they get to that project and how they get to that final scope is unique to their engineering skills. You know, some of the things that, that's okay, some of the recommendations that the Canadian company made were really intriguing. I mean, they were really, really intriguing. And if there had been other public schools that had been able to adopt it and SED approve it, even though they were not the same scope, I would have been seriously considering, even though they don't have any public schools, just because of that piece of it. It's all different.
But if you get, like, say, like Centralized, who is closer to us than Schenectady, and you get 6 different ones, and they all have come up with 6 different proposals, and you pick a company based on those 6 proposals, fine. Say you pick JCI, fine, bring it back to us. Now maybe so it's from 6 different companies, you said, well, JCI, I liked your proposal, I'm picking you, but can you also add in company A's and company E's stuff into that? And maybe get the best for our,
I don't know, because their calculations are really following this. You know, when they sit there and they look at the rebates and look at the state.
they can always change it and dial it back in and too. I mean, it just feels like we'll get better energy performance contract for our school district if we have more bids.
We're gonna get more for the money, which is trying to say. That's what I feel.
And that, again, I don't, if it comes down to JCI, then it comes down to JCI, but at least we got 6, and we really
Or
looked
we
at it.
added on some things, whatever, we got more for the money.
Well,
That's- I think moving forward,
but you made a comment earlier that you don't feel that John Grillo awards to anybody else. And
No, out of his last 5, he awarded 4 to JCI and 1 only because the board said, no, we're not taking it.
Okay, but that being said, with John Grillo as the architect, we can't control how many responses we get.
No, you're right,
So
but if they see that the board said
we-
no to JCI this time, because they want more bids, then maybe more people will bid.
Or maybe they won't.
Or maybe they won't, and then we get JCI again anyway.
And we-
Then either way, we did our due diligence. Either way.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the review process, the amount of time that was spent by the contractors looking at the building, looking at the individual vendors, I think it was a pretty extensive, in-depth process, and I don't know if more people would respond to something.
What is your downside to going out for more bids? Is there an opportunity that we're missing here or?
Well, we have two things. We know that July 1, the governor has already said that they're going to be proposing a change to state aid. So we don't know what that looks like. And I have no idea how that carries over. That was one of the big impetuses to doing the capital project and putting it on the ballot. And that's the one piece that I've spoken to the community, that having this opportunity to vote on it now, while the state aid is a known number, there's absolutely a financial value to that. The other piece of it is the pieces of equipment that I'm most concerned about district-wide are the high school boilers. We had a problem 3 years ago where we had to shut the building down because we had problems with boilers. That high school boiler room is a machination of half a dozen different systems over the years, and the electrical nightmares down there are about. So, and this is something that, has been part of the conversations. We didn't include in the capital project, but we talked about it in one simultaneously. The capital project came about fairly quickly, maybe I'm wrong, but it seems like it came fairly quickly, but the energy performance piece is now following suit. I think those two pieces, the known financial aid from state, that 1 ratio, and the high school boilers are 2 pretty compelling reasons to try and get this moving.
So I have a question, is there a relationship with this third person?
Yeah, I met him through Linda.
And that's the only contact you have with this person?
We want to do date him?
No, I know him too.
No, other than that,
We went to an after party that Linda brought us to.
oh, that was the only
I
time.
don't care if he wins the contract or not. There's no relationship. I don't care.
I don't think what she's fighting, I think what she's
I
trying to
don't
do
care
is
if
she's
JCI
trying to
gets it.
say
I want more
is
bids.
more bids.
Don't insinuate things that aren't there.
That's really, I think, what we're looking
I didn't say what I did, I just asked a
No,
question.
you didn't. No, you insinuated.
I asked a question.
Yeah.
Insinuation that has no, is closed-ended. I asked a question which is open-ended. So if you didn't have any further contact with the third person, then this is a moot
I
point.
contact a lot of people, Myron.
And this person in particular,
Central licensed school districts, Schenectady School.
I didn't ask that
A
question,
lot of
I asked this person in
architects. I
particular.
contact a lot of people,
I
Myron, a
asked
lot.
this person,
I don't really
I'm asking
contact
about
them.
this person in particular.
I do think this, though, I think we need to get more bids on the jobs. That's something I agree with. Going forward, whether if we're gonna approve this, but moving forward, we need to get more bids. We need to be able to have more leeway to say, hey,
But I think-
A is giving,
We have to
A
work
is giving
together.
us this,
Fiscally responsible.
D is giving us this, and you're giving me this for this price. I like your price, I like everything, but they're giving me a little more. Can you do that? We don't have any
The
flexibility.
problem we have right now,
No, we can't.
what I'm seeing right now,
I think it's too late.
the problem we're having, what I see right now is if we lose funding in July.
How long is the bid process, John? How long did you put it out for the last time?
You're cutting the audience, we think. My concern right now is the process that is going to be cut off in July, and then we're gonna lose money. So what's the sense of even going out for more bids to get and lose money?
Maybe. You don't know that.
What's the a gamble on doing that?
How long does it take for the bid process to?
It takes months. You have to go around all the buildings, took a month last time.
Yeah, but I have to go back and check, but I do believe it was 6 to 8 weeks that it was open and available.
So
We
we don't
had-
have
I think it's
time.
6 weeks, we can have time to do this, what you want.
And I'm not, I will do as the board wishes, but I'm gonna tell you, I spent, and I did Tim Dungate, and the new custodial supervisor, and the building custodians, we spent probably thousands of hours,
We have
thousands of
JCI.
hours with those three contractors.
I don't know
going
the
through
other,
the
I don't have the other name.
Ecosystems.
I don't know what that-
Ecosystems was the Canadian company.
Ecosystem,
JCI.
and what was the third one, the one that I have dating or whoever it is? What's the third, what's the name? The one that did get the bid? What's his name, Linda? What's the name of that company?
The person that we're speaking of.
Yeah, whatever, give me a name.
I don't know the name, Mike Ryan.
Mike, okay, so Mike's, we'll just say Mike's. So you have those three, they've already been in this. So if you get more bidders, those are the ones you gotta put around.
But now, if I'm GCI, I'm gonna take a look at Ecosystems proposal, and because it's public information, and they're gonna turn around and say, oh, you know, we're gonna consider this, we gotta get back and build this and do that. Ecosystems. is
But
gonna
if
turn
we,
around-
so if we deny JCI tonight, then it's still gonna be the same thing. If we say no to JCI tonight, then it will be the same process, right? So
Absolutely.
again,
same
it
process.
doesn't matter, they'll still have that information, it's not like we're just doing our due diligence.
Agreed.
Okay.
And my only concern, the only piece I was bringing up is, you know, we talked about doing our due diligence and making sure we do the right.
I'm not saying that you didn't.
No, I appreciate that. But, you know, we're talking thousands of hours.
We're talking a lot of money.
I know, and I greatly appreciate that, but you just need to understand, there's more than just the idea of 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 bits. There is a tremendous cost.
I get it, but there's also, you know, like, we have taxpayers that have a budget to pass, a bond to pass, and now an energy performance contract. So we
I
have to do
totally
the
get
right
it.
thing.
Yes, and I appreciate that, and I don't mean to lessen that, I just want people to understand that, you know, we go back and we get 2 responses again, so be it, it is what it is.
And that is, it is what it is,
And then
right?
we've invested thousands of hours more that I'm telling you in all honesty, I don't have. And I hate saying it so bluntly, I don't have it. I'm here every morning at 7 o'clock and I haven't left before 8 o'clock the last several weeks. And that's not anybody's problem, it's just the nature of the work, and it's that business.
So John, I'm not gonna get into figures because I'm not, but the minute that we pay $1, we're already gonna see a return on the money. I'm not giving out figures because I don't feel comfortable right now with the data that was provided to us.
So the moment.
So, but-
The moment.
And I don't want you to guess, I don't want you to give out specific numbers either.
I couldn't give you.
Oh, I have the numbers, but I don't want you to be specific. But my question is, the minute that we pay $1, we're gonna start seeing some returns.
The moment a measure is installed, we must start receiving the financial benefit. If we change out lights to LEDs, the moment that switch goes on, there's a savings.
When can we start?
So
is
no
that
one's
when you're
saying
at-
that,
Oh, it's
again,
at least a year, because you gotta design it, it's gotta go to SED.
So we can't start for a while.
so, and again, I'm not saying that I want the energy performance contract, I said that from day one. I think it's a great thing, I love the solar panel, I loved everything about it. I think it's a great savings for our district. I have no problem with energy performance.
I appreciate it.
Okay, so,
Alright, so,
Do we have enough time to put out for a bid and then still? That's right, is that what you're saying?
well, did you see the binder? I know I need transfer binder, but there was the binder was like this thick. And it was very explicit and the
I'm just
information
asking
and
a
everything
question.
that. No, I'm kind of carrying, picking up where John left over. So I don't know if Eileen took the time to read that thick binder, I'm gonna say it's about 1,000 pages or so.
I did.
I did,
So why
I
didn't
read
you,
every single page.
so why didn't you bring the binder? Why?
Because I threw it out after we tabled the energy performance contract, we didn't need it anymore, I chucked it out. Am I leaving it in my house, use it as freaking litter? What the heck do I need it for?
Should
We
have turned it
chucked
back
it,
to
we
the
tabled it.
district.
Well, how do I know that?
I really don't want
I think board
to-
members that didn't
No,
know that.
but anyway,
I'll look
so
at
anyway,
it.
Mark, so anyway, so I just want you to know that in that 1,000 pages, a lot of detail goes into it, a lot of specs.
I understand that because that's what John was saying. I
So,
got it.
I've read
I'm
many,
just gonna go
many,
back
many
out
manuals like
again.
that, my land.
Now that it's 1,000 more hours, pretty much producing the same thing that we've already had on the, but, all right, so I'm going to pull item number 3.
What do you think about it? What do you think? I mean, that's why I'm talking, because it seems like it's two different views.
I don't have any problem with the actual performance bond.
Me neither. I want the bids.
That's not apples to apples. We have two and one was really in, this
Yes.
I can't tell you that.
Even if you get four, they're all different, but you decide which
Well,
one you like.
I have a problem.
He wants apples to apples.
I don't know if there's a way that we can sort of look at it, go, okay, that's your solution, but we do what he's proposing, what would you charge us? I don't know, it may be way too complicated.
I don't know. I don't have.
I hope that's it.
I don't have a good answer for it. I can tell you the last energy performance contract that I did, we went through the process. There was some savings that were above and beyond as we got into the project. It took 2 years to fully implement it. And we made some recommendations, the Board of Education made some recommendations as to additional elements to be included. Large fans in the gym so that we can the hot air down and the cold air up and all that kind of stuff. The companies, absolutely, makes perfect sense. Right, so there is a mechanism for some changes, but as a full negotiation, I don't know. Everyone has their own expertise too. You know, they all have their previous experiences that they've been able to document and justify their savings, because they're putting themselves out there as well, so they need to have a level of confidence with the proposals and measures that they're looking at. If I was a businessman, I would not want to have to hear somebody else's response, because it's not apples to apples. They have a different skill set than somebody else does. So I don't have a definitive answer, and I apologize, but I think it would be tough to ever do that kind of a line-by-line negotiation with each and every single respondent to get an idea of the best possible. That would take us,
Yeah,
you know, that would take a lot longer than a couple months.
you're saying it's not, it's clear,
I get it, yeah, I'm
clear
sorry.
advantage, best for who should use it.
I totally understand.
So John, is the idea to get this on so that they can work hand in hand with
Yeah,
the
we
capital and project?
Well, it would definitely allow us to change the scope of one end or the other. One of the measures in Johnson Controls is to provide insulation in a lot of buildings, on a lot of piping and everything else. The current capital project has its ability proposed also calls for the replacement of pipes and therefore insulation. If we had the ability to do the insulation through the energy performance, and we get the state aid and there's no impact to the cost there, maybe we reduce the overall scope of the capital project at the end of the day.
Because that was the perception I was under. The idea is that they work hand in hand and
But
then
I couldn't tell you to what extent and how much. and
there's
everything else.
pieces of it, because I did my research, there's pieces of it, so.
Yeah, but I just don't know what they add up to. And the other piece is when you do a capital project and you sit there and say $45 million, you know we're gonna have a couple of projects that are gonna come in a couple of dollars more, a couple of dollars less, and we're gonna do everything we can to fit every single piece in. It's just a big project over a 3-year period of time. Does it help? Does it standardize the design? Does it make it a better end product? I totally believe so.
That's why I thought simultaneously that the two of these complement each other going forward.
Yeah, because you don't have to design faults.
Right, because now it's going to be counterproductive otherwise. If we now delay, we wait a month for, the people,
How long do these RFPs go out?
once,
Yeah, for this one, the amount of review, I think it's probably a 6-week, it might even be a 2-month process. So,
Send it out. Then we have, don't we have to put it up?
Well, then you have to go through the whole review process, the interview and everything else
You hear that?
before you can award. You have to go through a full review process, everything else. I don't see us being able to do it prior to July 1, when there's the idea of potential stage.
You're saying that you don't feel like we can get it out of the gates and still get it in this year.
I don't see how we can get it finalized and have a recommendation to the Board of Education by July 1, and the government each year awards the state. And I don't know if right
You
now.
you said 6 to 8 weeks. So
We have to
we
go,
do 6
yeah.
weeks, then we can vote, right?
If we do 6 weeks, and we're at the Easter break. I don't know if you're on, I don't know if it's vacation or not Easter break. I just don't know.
We can still get it done by June, because that's 8 weeks, May,
But even
June.
if we did it by June, then we still have to go through the interview process. We have to go through that whole vetting process and match process.
But if we only have to say 2 or 3 companies, then it doesn't matter, you don't have to do all that, because you already did that. It's
Well,
only,
if we disregard the 2 and we go out for a new RFP, we can't use the original ones. We can't go back to.
no, I'm not saying that, you're saying to vet them out. You
Yeah.
already vetted them.
Well, I'd have to assume that at a minimum, we're gonna get at least one more respondent. So,
I'm hoping that we get 4 more.
we might, my point is, we're gonna get at least one more respondent, in my opinion, based upon the fact that some of the people a couple hours.
You're talking about that Mike guy, right?
So if that's the case, then the whole review process, the interview, all has to take place. The whole process has to take place.
How much time will you probably?
I have no idea what the governor's proposing.
No, for us.
How many
How much
costs?
it cost us?
You better have to look at it's gonna cost us.
It's the posting of the bid and everything else, that's the extent.
That's it, right?
And if this is just me as we're talking about it, I'm thinking about it, if I'm an EPC right now, I turn around and say, there's no way. They can't guarantee their savings and their state aid ratio with the uncertainty as to what the governor might do.
Absolutely.
No, we gotta get this done by July.
Before July.
Before July, yes.
But if we did it today, we approved it today to go get more bids, it could be done before July
It
1st.
really can, and it really can, because we have to write the
You just said 6 to
proposal.
8 weeks.
Yes, but we have to write the proposal, we have one more workday this week. So when you start to look at our folks leaving, we're not getting back till May 1st, really. We get back
Right.
April 30th. If we got the proposal in the paper, May 15th, because you need to get input in the paper deadlines, you're talking, if you let the bid be out there for 6 to 8 weeks, that's July
Well, then
15th.
shorten the bid process, shorten it to 4 weeks.
I don't think that that's gonna happen, because they do their due diligence. These companies come through, they spend hundreds of hours walking through the building with John and Andrew and Tim.
How long did it take to hold?
Oh, hundreds and hundreds of hours the companies
I mean,
spend.
if that book is any indication.
All right, I'm ready to
If that
vote.
book is
I
any
don't need to discuss
indication.
it anymore, I'm good.
Yeah, let's drop this, we just gotta have to vote. If that book is any indication how many hours were put into that, first they surveyed, I can't even imagine how much time that took. Okay, we're gonna vote on items 2 through 6, we already got a motion on the table, we're extracting 3, we're taking that for a separate vote. So it's items 2 to 4, 5, and 6. Is that an all in favor? Aye. 2, 4, 5, and 6.
4, 5, and then the 6 was that letter?
Yes.
What is this last, what is 5? I don't even know what 5 is. Is that the one that came through the email leak?
That is a company whose name changed. It is a contract that we entered into early this year, and their incorporation changed their name.
That's
So
all it is?
it's just a name change.
Right.
Okay, 'cause I didn't see this at all. Okay.
Okay, we have the 4 votes, let's move on, now we have do we have 4 or 5 on items 2, 4, 5, and 6?
I think you're fine now.
We have 5. Is that correct? We have 5 votes for items 2, 4, 5, and 6.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so now we're voting on the energy performance contract.
We'll still do it by next time.
I need a motion and a second. I need a motion and a second. for the energy performance contract. I'll second that. Is that all in favor?
No.
Be here
You gonna be here?
next year.
I don't know, yes or no, what do we get it?
No.
Get more bids.
There's no way it's gonna happen.
No, you need to reopen the process. It's gonna take at least 10 to 12 weeks by the time you put the bid out on the ground and you let the folks come through and put the bid proposal in and then open the
I think
bid.
it's 6 to 8 weeks and then 10 to 12 weeks.
Because the bid is open for 6 to 8 weeks. So
You
we allow the
can
companies
open
to
the
come
bid
in.
for 4 to 6 weeks, like, you can change that, you decide that,
But you,
We can do whatever.
we decide that,
so
we
wait a
decide
minute, so
that.
you wanna pick and choose when you want to change the,
I'm not picking and choosing anything, I'm saying.
so if we have a protocol
Administration
now,
decides.
it's 6 weeks, we're gonna change it so that we can do a favoritism for somebody else to get their bid in.
Who are you doing a favoritism for?
I'm not doing right,
Johnson Controls?
nope.
Okay then, so then,
Nope.
I don't think we're doing
So we're
favoritism to
gonna
anybody but my
change our regular
taxpayers.
outline to appease somebody. That's what
I'm
it
not
sounds like.
appeasing anyone, I want more
Let's
things.
stop.
Stop with that, my man, I don't even remember.
I don't think anybody's looking to attack anybody, so I don't.
All right, Ray, it's up to you.
What we're trying to do is give the boys the best interest.
That's what we're trying to do.
Exactly.
Right.
So everybody
I don't
has their-
care about who gets the
I don't-
contract
we don't
as
need
long
to
as my
attack.
taxpayers gets the benefit. That's all I
don't
care
like
about.
that. I hate that.
All right,
All your
Ray,
insinuations and your accusations.
right? I already have 2 no's, you have 2
I
yeses.
vote no,
I
I
didn't
put it out
I'm
for,
sorry,
I
Mark.
vote to put it out for more bids.
So then you, that's a no.
Okay.
Mark,
I'm waiting to hear what you guys have to do.
I already said yes.
Ray, what are you doing?
I said yes.
Tell me I can't do it.
You're not ready with the next meeting. What?
Well, the new board members.
New board members starts May 21st.
Who's going to do it? New board members are on May 12th.
May 21st.
May 21st.
Under question. That's horrible.
New board members are on the side.
No, you, if you vote no, then it's, the new board member doesn't start.
If you want to vote to table it, Ray, so that we don't lose the energy performance contract, because I don't think we should lose it, I'll vote to table it.
We're tabling it for what?
I'm asking them, I'm asking them, they did, I didn't tell them.
You can if you have 3 votes.
You're only tabling Johnson Control. It's either a yes or a no to Johnson. Then you're asking for it to go out to bid.
And you just heard, it's not gonna get the bid in before July 1st. State that changing the rules,
That's why.
we're gonna lose money.
Maybe. You don't know that.
It's not a maybe, it's already, I watched the webinar on it. It's for a fact. That 67% is not gonna be at,
You're hanging out with Governor Cuomo, you know exactly what he's going to decide to do.
excuse me, I watched the webinar and it's a fact that it's going to be below 67%.
I don't know what Governor Cuomo.
If you watched the webinar, you would know.
That's a big loss.
Well, no, what you need to do,
You have to speak out loud, Ray. You can't huddle in the corner.
No. No, he
I
doesn't.
apologize, I didn't mean to huddle, I'm just trying to figure it out.
Well, we're trying to get your thought process because
I'm afraid that it's not gonna get done in time.
What I would like to do, I'm feeling I can't do because I'm hearing that we're not gonna get it back in time. So, just to give me satisfaction, please going forward, let's get an ample amount of bids, so we're never in this position again. And I vote yes.
thank you.
Okay, move on.
You want,
No, I didn't vote.
Mark didn't vote yet.
oh, sorry, one.
I'll sustain it.
Abstain and a no.
Okay, one no,
I
one
said
abstention.
I'm actually, I'm voting
Okay.
yes. I'm gonna vote.
Thank you, Mark.
Okay.
So one no, 4 yes.
One absolutely not. I gotta do inspection. 4.
But can I say something?
Yes.
Just please, moving forward, we need to get more bids on jobs.
Yeah,
And I'll
Say
tell you
yes,
what,
anything that-
before we accept the job, we send it out if we only have one bid. We have to get a couple of bids, it just makes life easy. I we feel better as a board, knowing that it's out to the, for a couple of bids, and it's not somebody coming in and just telling us what they're gonna do and getting the price they want. So in the future, we've said this once before,
Well,
we don't have to.
wait, can I,
If they gave us this quick 6-week
I'm saying
window.
moving forward, I'm going
No,
yesterday.
I know that, Mark, but if they give a 6-week window and only 2 apply, do you now say, okay, let's do another 6-week window and wait
Well,
for more?
I heard somebody apply 3 hours late, is what she just
Right.
said. We should have took it,
But they,
No, you can't.
No, you
You
or
can't.
we should have said, okay, open it up again for 4 weeks.
Lisa,
We could have opened it up for a couple of
when
weeks.
you put a bid out and you have a deadline, are you allowed to accept anything past the deadline?
But you can repost it. You can repost it.
You have to withdraw and then rebid, you start the process all over again.
You could have added 2 more weeks.
No.
The same process that he talked about taking 6 to 8 weeks starts again from scratch.
purchasing,
You start again,
rules and regulations.
because you don't want to give any advantage to anybody, so.
I want to start again, then moving forward. I'd like to get a couple more bids from now on, moving forward. That's it, that's my opinion.
Yeah, but then they need to apply.
Moving
the-
forward, I'd
No,
like,
I get that, but they have to apply the 6-week window, like Lisa explained.
and I'm saying if we don't get enough bids, to redo the whole thing again.
start it over.
I want the right, I want the proper amount of bids on jobs. Because these people feel like they got the job, other people don't even bid. If people start to see that we're putting it out there, we'll get a little competition going on here, and we'll get the better price for our district.
So Lisa.
And that's all I give a shit about is
So
our district.
Lisa, is
So
that,
I'm
so.
sorry, I'm not going
So
to take care of
Lisa,
that. It's our district.
addressing what Mark is saying, so say you get the 2, so then we scrap the 2 and start all over again, like, is that how that works?
Yeah, you have to reject the
You
two,
reject the 2?
you reject the two, and then you rebid.
Yeah.
Put the bid out again, start all over.
2 is more better than, from what I was understanding, we got 2 this time. And one of them, we couldn't even use, we got like 1.5. So what I'm saying is just moving forward, I'm just saying it would just make us better. I think it would only help us, that's all.
We're asking to put a little more pressure on us to go find bids.
And get a better price.
Spots, we're not getting it, let's go find it.
How do you do that?
How do you do that? He said.
More and more.
How does purchasing do that? Wait, Sharon,
There's a 5-page memo that I just gave you, and it describes the whole process that our director.
We also got that by email.
It's also in front
I
of
was
you.
busy, last couple of days.
Yeah, me too.
Talk to her, listen.
Well, that's pretty much done. It's just, in compliance with general municipal law, board policy, good practice. She talks about a specific bid that was questioned on the March 26th agenda, an open meeting about the elevator bid. And she talks about everything she did. So while it may seem that there was only one bid, there were more.
Okay. All right, so we need a motion, a second, to move into exec session, and we're also gonna take a few minute recess. Contracts. I need a motion, a second? We did, but, took too long on a key performance conversation. We did, that's already been, pretty much.
But John, let me get, you look into that, I'm curious.
I'll make a motion to move into executive session.
All in favor?
Yeah, so, I think I sent an email to everybody, but Tim, I asked him to speak specifically to the student, as well as the parents.
It's not on the agenda.
And he did do that.
It's
Something is on the agenda?
It is.
The public portion
I
is
did,
on
they
the,
know clearly what they want to do. Tim said
The mystery Cherokee. It's on the weekend. It's a week.
Do we get a motion, a second? All in favor?
Not all in favor.
I need all in favor and move into exec session, we're gonna take a few minute recess.
All in favor?
All in favor?